Alright guys, so today in this video I'm going to apply a lot of Terra Sig. I'm going to do 5 layers, 10 layers, 15 layers, and 20 layers. I'm going to let that dry and then I'm going to fire it and we're going to see exactly what the effect of having more layers than what I think is needed, how that affects the firing, how it'll affect the look of it after it's fired. And we're all just going to do it on this test piece. So I'll do a strip of 5 layers. I already have one. So I have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we have 4 layers. I'm going to do 5, 10, 15, and 20. And I'm going to mark it on the edges of this. So I'll just... Alright, it's 5 right there. Let's see if I can burnish this or not. Looks like I can. Alright guys, now we're going to do 10 coats right in between these two. So here's the 10, Roman numeral 10 right here. Let's start top. Alright guys, I'll let this sit for about 2 minutes. I'm going to apply 5 more layers to it. This is for the 10 layer coat. Alright, I ended up waiting about 2 minutes for this as well. Now I'm going to try and burnish it. So I didn't want to burnish it right away, just because if it's too wet right when you start to burnish it, some of these grains can pull off and then scratch the area that you're trying to burnish. So, or at least with this clay anyways. So. Try and let it dry off a little bit before I burnish it. It looks pretty glossy, and I think it's just going to have a major color contrast compared to the pot as well. Alright, I had this sit for a few and put the last coating of 5 to make it 15 coats. At 15, it looks like it can barely even absorb anymore. And you can see a lot of that is staying right on top. Down here it's starting to pull up top on here where the ridges are at, it's starting to pull up. It's taking longer for it to absorb into the pottery. let's go ahead and burnish this. See how it looks. Ooh, see, I pulled off the piece right there, I think, because maybe it was too moist still. I think it might still be too wet right now. Alright, it's been drying for a couple of minutes. So I'm going to try and burnish this now. It's looking pretty glossy still. This looking pretty filled up as well. Looks pretty cool. Alright, that's 15 coats right here. Alright, so I'm going to start the 20 coats, and I'm going to do it in 5 increment strips. So I'm going to do 5, then I'm going to wait about 30 seconds to a minute, and then I'll add another 5, and then I'll wait again, maybe a little bit longer than I did the first time, and then I'll do 5 again, wait a little bit longer, and then do 5 more. And then I'll wait before I burnish it. Alright, it's been sitting for a few minutes now. Try and burnish this guy. I'm not putting a lot of pressure on it, but I am putting enough. You don't want to put too much and possibly, you know, maybe move the clay particles or like push off. If you have something like me where it's heavily grogged, you could loosen up one of these grains of sand in here and then it'll just be rubbing on the surface. So you don't want to push on it too hard, but you need enough pressure to compress the clay particles down and this Terra Sig into the clay particles. So just be careful if you feel like the surface isn't smooth to begin with. It could be hard to burnish it without scratching it. That looks pretty darn polished there. That's 15, 10, 5. 5 has been drying up for a while now. Has more color than 4 does. I feel like this is probably still drying a little bit, but it will stay around the same color. Alright guys, so it's been about 2 hours now, and I would say that this is fully dried. Right here is your 5, here's your 10, here's 15, and then here's 20. And you can notice 20 has good gloss to it, but it also has the most color contrast compared to the pot. And I think that's just because of the Terra Sig that I used. I used a river clay, which is darker than this clay that I have now, which I got from Diamond Hill Mine, which is like a mine where you can get crystals and stuff like that. But anyways, I got the clay from there that I made this pot from, and the Terra Sig I got from a local river next to the area that I live in. So these are two different clay types on top of each, well, this one on top of this clay, so it was naturally darker, and you can see that in the application that I used. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these in the oven. I'm going to candle them, and then I'm going to start a fire. I'm going to pit fire these, and we'll see how they turn out. If they keep their gloss, if it stays discolored compared to the pot. You know, this is all things that I'd like to know, and I think this would be a good experiment piece to use it. So yeah. Or almost 1300. That's inside of the pot. On the outside, obviously, it's going to be hotter. So that's it right there. I'm doing the side of the wall. Some of it's getting 1300 when I go closer to the middle, to this point right here. When I get to this, it's around 1400. Oh no, it has a crack in it. Oh well. This is only an experiment piece. I'm just trying to get some of this hair on the different layers of Terra Sig that I put down, just to see what it does to it. Let me put some of this on too. What's up, guys? So I just took this experimental Terra Sig piece out of the pit fire, put some horsehair on it, and although it's cracked, I still really enjoy this piece. And I feel like there's a lot you can learn from it as well. And just to recap, I made 8 distinct strips of Terra Sig. I have a strip of 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 layer strips, and then I go to 5, and then to 10, 15, and 20. So I'm going to show you what 1 looks like first, and here's the Roman numeral 1 right there. And you can tell it really doesn't have any very distinct coloring compared to this 20. This is a 20 strip. That whole strip right there is 20. And you can tell it has gloss to it on the top half and on the bottom half. The bottom half, if you remember, is burnished with a stone, where the top half is not burnished at all. I just didn't even mess with it. The bottom half I burnished before putting Terra Sig on. So you can notice 1 compared to 20 layers, how different they are. You get a different color, and you get a higher gloss with more layers. And I really thought that this layer would crack or look crumbly or something like that, but 20 layers in, and you can see a very distinct color. color variation. I mean, the contrast between the original color of the pot and what the Terra Sig looked like is night and day. This is no layers at all. This is just, this strip right here is just a regular piece. If this is a burnished piece that I had from the stone, and then this top piece is just regular clay. I didn't do anything with it. So this whole strip right here compared to this strip right here is completely different too. But at one, you can't really tell that much of a difference. Let's look at 2. So 2 would be right here. So this is 2. And you can't really tell. I mean, you can tell a little bit of a difference. I can see a little bit of coloring compared to how the natural color of the pot looks. So I mean, I can see a little bit, but it's still not that much, and you really can't tell there's a gloss or anything like that to it either. So let's look at 3. 3 is right here, and I think 3 is where you can start to notice, you can really start to notice a change in color and a change in the gloss. I mean, it looks a lot more glossier. Even up here I can see more of a sheen than compared to right here. This is no layers right beside it. No layers right beside it. Right in the middle you can see the gloss. So you can notice a little bit of a difference just from 3 layers. And here's 4 layers right here, which is where I have this major crack at. But you notice a lot more, I notice a lot more sheen on the bottom half where I initially burnished it. And you can just see more of a disparity in color right here, the contrast in color. But you really don't start noticing much of a difference until you get to 5 layers. So here's 5 layers right here. This is Roman numeral V, 5 layers. And you can tell that there's a noticeable look at this right in between here. You can see this line where there's nothing. See, here's 4 on this side, and then there's 5 on this side, and right in between is the part that I didn't do anything with, and there's a noticeable line right there. But at 5 you can notice definitely a darker looking color, and that's because of the dark clay that I used to make the Terra Sig. So you get some of that darker quality of the clay that you used, which makes these oranges really pop. I mean, it kind of makes the color look more bold. And you can tell that there's even more of a sheen on this rough textured area that I didn't compact with a stone or burnish. And it just gets more and more bold the higher the layers go up. So this is the 10 layer. You can notice a very nice strip of Terra Sig through here. Gloss on the top, gloss on the bottom, and the color is getting darker. Here's 15. I really love the way this looks. I mean, I wish it didn't crack, but it's still a very cool piece. And this right here, I noticed on 15 layers, but this is like, kind of have a glare here, but it almost looks like it has a crumble texture, like I thought I would get on the 20, but I didn't get on the 20 for some reason. I only got it on the 15, but it looks like this layer's kind of crumbled right here, and I'm not really sure why, because I figured if my 15 layer was getting a crumble texture, then definitely my 20 layer would. But just notice the difference again. This is 20, this is a 15 layer, this is a 10, and this is a 5. Just look at how they keep getting darker and darker the more layers you put on. And I would say the 15 layer would be the color that I would like. I feel like 20 layers may be getting a little too dark for what I would want it to be, because I still want to show the colors, the natural colors of this clay body. I just want them to be bolder and more highlighted. So I think in between 10 to 15 layers is going to be a good application for your pieces of pottery. And depending on what you wanted your pot to look like, you could have it more of a sheen to it by compressing the clay before putting the Terra Sig on. So just getting a stone and burnishing it. That's what I did with this one. I just pushed a stone into it and I would compress the clay down, and that gave it a nice smooth surface to begin with before you even started putting the layers on. And this top up here, I didn't do anything. So this upper half, I didn't do anything too. So there are a lot of different ways you could apply Terra Sig and get different results for it. But the takeaway, I would say, is with Terra Sig, you want to make sure that you layer your Terra Sig top to bottom, initially taking that moisture, putting it on the top, letting it run down and coming back up. That's how you should apply it, I think, unless you were going to do it where you held it from the side. I still feel like you should do top to bottom application. And then the next thing to think about would be, are you doing this for a gloss, glazy look? Did you just want to color the pot itself? If you wanted to color the pot, add more layers. And if you wanted to just if you just wanted to make it look more glossy, then compact the clay before applying the Terra Sig. That'll give it a very glossy look, and you won't need to put that many layers on if you just want a nice high gloss. This pot went up to, I measured it at around 1300, so maybe it's high up to 1400, so around 13 to 1400 degrees. And I didn't measure it right at the peak of what I thought the fire was, just because it was so hot I couldn't face the thermometer straight down into the brick kiln. So I think it'll be able to hold this high gloss, high sheen look around 1500 to 1600 degrees. But I really enjoyed making this piece and experimenting with it. And if you guys would like to see more videos like this, please do not forget to like, share, comment down below. Let me know what you want the next video to be. And until then, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.